It was a dark and stormy night, fitting for the case I was about to be assigned. I had been a detective for over a decade, seen my fair share of grisly scenes, and faced the darkest corners of humanity, but nothing could have prepared me for what lay ahead. The call came in just as I was about to head home. A murder, they said, and a particularly gruesome one. I grabbed my coat and headed out, the rain pelting down as I drove through the deserted streets to the scene. The address was an old mansion on the outskirts of town, a relic from a bygone era that seemed to loom menacingly in the stormy night. When I arrived, the scene was chaotic. Police tape surrounded the house, and officers were bustling about, their faces pale with fear. I stepped out of my car, the rain soaking me instantly, and made my way to the entrance.
Detective Monroe.
A young officer greeted me, his voice shaky.
It's bad in there.
I nodded and entered the mansion, bracing myself. The floor was grand, with high ceilings and ornate decorations, but it was the blood smeared across the walls that caught my attention. The body lay in the center of the room, a young woman, her face frozen in a look of sheer terror. "Who found her?" I asked, pulling out my notebook.
Her name's Emily Clark. The maid found her this morning. She said she heard some strange noises during the night, but didn't think much of it until she saw the blood.
I knelt beside the body, examining the wounds. They were deep, precise, almost surgical. Whoever had done this knew what they were doing, but it was the symbols carved into her flesh that made my blood run cold. They were ancient, demonic. The next few days were a blur of interviews and research. Emily Clark was a student, studying ancient history at the local university. She had no enemies, no reason for someone to want her dead, but the symbols on her body pointed to something far darker than a simple murder. I spent hours in the library poring over old texts and books of demonology. The symbols matched those associated with the demon named Azazel, a fallen angel known for corrupting humanity. The more I read, the more I felt a growing sense of unease. This wasn't just a murder, it was a ritual. I met with Professor William Harrington, an expert in ancient history and demonology, hoping he could shed some light on the case.
Azazel, he's a powerful demon, known for his ability to possess and corrupt. The symbols on her body suggest a summoning ritual, but it seems incomplete.
Incomplete? I echoed, my mind racing.
Yes, if the ritual had been completed, there would be far more destruction. It's as if someone tried to summon Azazel but failed.
As the investigation continued, I started to notice strange occurrences. Whispers in the night, shadows that seemed to move on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread that followed me everywhere. I tried to shake it off, attributing it to the stress of the case, but deep down I knew something was wrong. One night as I was going through the case files in my office, the whispers became louder, more insistent. They seemed to be calling my name, beckoning me to follow. I stood up, my heart pounding, and followed the whispers out of my office and into the dark hallway. The whispers led me to the evidence room. I hesitated, my hand on the doorknob before pushing it open. The room was cold, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. I approached the evidence locker containing Emily's belongings, and as I opened it, the whispers stopped. Inside the locker was a small, ornate box. I had seen it before, but it hadn't seemed important. Now it seemed to pulse with dark energy. I reached out, my hand trembling, and opened the box. Inside was a small, ancient-looking dagger, covered in strange symbols. The moment I touched the dagger, a searing pain shot through my hand, and I heard a voice, deep and malevolent, echoing in my mind.
"You cannot stop me, Jack Monroe. I will return, and you will be my vessel."
I stumbled back, dropping the dagger, my mind reeling. The voice was Azazel's. He was trying to possess me. Desperate and terrified, I sought out Professor Harrington again, explaining what had happened. He listened, his face growing pale.
Jack, if Azazel is trying to possess you, it means the ritual is still active. You need to break the connection.
How? I asked, my voice shaking.
There is an ancient ritual that can banish him, but it's dangerous. It requires confronting him directly.
With no other option, I agreed. That night, in the safety of the professor's home, we began the ritual. Candles flickered around us and the air grew cold. As Professor Harrington chanted, I felt a darkness enveloping me. Azazel's presence growing stronger.
You cannot banish me, Jack Monroe.
The voice echoed in my mind.
You are mine.
Summoning all of my strength, I repeated the words the professor had taught me. The darkness swirled around me, and I felt Azazel's grip tightening. But then a light pierced the darkness, and I saw a figure standing before me. Emily.
Fight him, Jack. You can do it.
With a renewed strength, I continued the chant, the light growing brighter. Azazel screamed in rage, his presence burning away in the light, and then it was over. The room was silent. The candles flickered gently. As I caught my breath, Professor Harrington handed me a letter. I found this among Emily's belongings. It's addressed to you. With trembling hands, I opened the letter. It was from Emily, written just days before her death.
Dear Detective Monroe, if you're reading this, it means I've failed. Azazel is trying to return, and I fear he has chosen you as his vessel. I discovered the truth too late, but I believe you can stop him. The dagger is the key. Use it to complete the banishment ritual and free us all from the grasp. Emily Clark.
I stared at the letter, the truth sinking in. Emily had known all along. She had been trying to stop Azazel, and her death was part of his plan to possess me. But now, thanks to her, he was gone. The case was closed, but the experience had changed me forever. I'd faced the darkness and survived, but I knew it was not truly over. The whispers might be gone, but the echoes of the demon's presence would linger in my mind, a constant reminder of the evil that lurked just beyond the shadows. As I left the professor's home, the first rays of dawn breaking through the storm clouds, I felt a strange sense of peace. Emily's sacrifice had saved me, and her courage had given me the strength to fight. The demon was gone, but her memory would live on, a beacon of hope in this darkness. And as long as I lived, I would make sure no one else would ever have to face the devil's whisper alone.